Hey y'all, it's Boden with the Research Assistance Center at the University of Alabama, and I'm here today to talk to you about something that strikes fear into the hearts of researchers new and seasoned alike: transcribing. It has a scary reputation for being so tedious, but it's actually pretty ubiquitous among qualitative researchers. Today I'll be talking about some basic topics of interviewing and transcribing to help get you started. Okay, let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. The process of reproducing audio recorded interview data into a written form has been described as tedious, time-consuming, physically demanding, and probably in a lot of other really not nice ways. I know what you're thinking. It's just typing, right? Well, kind of. The average time ratio for transcription is 4:1. This means that it can take up to 4 hours to transcribe 1 hour of recorded audio. So it's anything but just typing. This is because the transcriber is attuning to the speech of at least 2 speakers and recording all audible sounds. Even a project small in scope can require hours of listening, typing, rewinding, listening again, and so on. So go ahead and plan ahead for your transcribing and set aside that time. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Researchers typically use a voice recorder to record interviews. Like most products, they come with various options and price points. My advice would be to start small and cheap and figure out what you need. It's also possible to use a smartphone to record interviews, and many researchers go this route or use it as a backup. It's always a good idea to have a backup plan. Personally, I have an audio recorder that has demonstrated exceptional battery life, and I use my iPhone's voice memo function as a backup. Whatever you choose to do, make sure that you have secured permission through your institution's research board to record audio in the method of your choosing. When thinking about a location to interview a participant or participants, it's important to keep some things in mind. While you might think that one quiet local coffee shop will be a good choice, keep in mind that your audio recorder is going to record everything. That means the latte being ordered by the person with the loud voice, the juicy details of the conversation happening at the table next to you, every lo-fi jazz coffeehouse hit, and every chair pulled across the floor. My advice would be to find a quiet place, visit it during the time you're thinking about doing your interview, and check it out. A noisy audio recording will ensure a tedious transcription. Let's talk about data security. After the interview, make sure to get the data in the place it's supposed to go. Don't carelessly toss your voice recorder in your backpack and forget about it. In the worst case, it could get lost, which could put your data security at risk. Besides that, it's also good for process management. Speaking from personal experience, nothing is more demoralizing than the feeling of having hours of audio on your recorder awaiting transcription. If you're carrying out formal research, most IRBs require you to submit some type of data safekeeping protocol. If that's the case, be sure to follow it. For the safekeeping of my data, I use encrypted cloud storage websites. There are many to choose from. For students at the University of Alabama, Box is provided for free and allows easy sharing for research teams, and is encrypted both in file transfer and storage. Always check with your institution's IRB for guidelines when choosing a data repository, and always follow IRB protocol for data security. On the topic of data storage, here are a few tips. When naming a file, it's a good idea to include the date and possibly the participant's name or pseudonym for quick identification in your data repository. As a side note, it's always a good interviewing practice to announce the date in the first few seconds of the interview so that you can maintain and index the chronological order of multiple interviews with the same person. Regardless of what you choose, always follow IRB protocols for data safety. So, you finished your interview and now it's time to get to work. While it's possible to play the audio aloud and type to your heart's content, keep in mind that speech rates are pretty fast. For example, English speakers in the United States can average around 150 words per minute, but luckily, there are some things to make this process a little bit easier. Rate of speech is probably the most challenging aspect of transcription, and knowing this, it must have been a pretty happy day for all transcribers around the world when the first foot pedals were released. These pedals typically connect through USB to a computer and work by allowing the user to depress one or more pressure-sensitive inputs or pedals, which are assigned different inputs by the user. These are commonly used to play, stop, rewind, and fast forward audio being played through a transcription program. There is a lot of variation in transcription pedals, so be sure to read lots of reviews and ask others to ensure that you purchase something for your needs. There is a ton of transcription software out there, and it would be impossible to go through them all. So I'm going to talk about one that I've found to be the most intuitive, user-friendly, and most importantly, free. Transcribe is a popular choice because it's free and it's easy to use. Simply upload a WAV or MP3 and transcribe away. The web app gives the user the ability to rewind, fast forward, slow down, speed up, and start and stop the audio. By default, Transcribe maps these commands to less commonly used keys like the F keys and the escape key on a standard keyboard. But it also gives the user the opportunity to create custom keyboard shortcuts of their own. Transcribe is not a data repository and should never be depended on to keep documents. Because of that, it's recommended to save the typed text often to a word processor. There are countless transcription programs and web apps out there. The best advice is to try them out and see if they fit your needs. Be sure to always outline what programs you intend to use when filling out IRB protocols and follow them. Some researchers simply don't have the time or the desire to transcribe interview data and use transcription services instead. These paid services, usually priced per minute, typically come in two varieties: human and AI-based transcription. The price for human transcription services is usually around $1.50 per minute, so this can get really expensive really quick. AI-based services are cheaper, but the accuracy, especially when transcribing multiple speakers, can leave a lot to be desired. I've heard from researchers that AI-based transcription requires so much time for the researcher to go back and check the transcript that it can be a waste of money and time altogether. The use of transcription services is contentious. Many researchers, including myself, feel that the process of transcribing allows the researcher to spend valuable time with their data. This experience helps the researcher gain a more intricate knowledge of their research. It can also result in the uncovering of things that would have possibly been overlooked if using a transcription service. The choice to use a transcription service is really more about your own research philosophy than a clear-cut right or wrong decision. Sometimes for large-scale projects, there simply isn't enough time for a researcher to transcribe. Researchers aren't superhuman, and we only have so much time and energy. Simply stated, sometimes our efforts are better spent in other ways. However, if using a transcription service, there are a few things to keep in mind. It's imperative that someone from the research team review the audio recordings and transcripts. Transcriptions are human creations, and thus sometimes can be altered intentionally or otherwise. I hope that you found this video about basic concepts of interviewing and transcribing to be helpful and informative. The RAC will be releasing other videos this semester on these topics, so be sure to subscribe to our content to stay informed. In the meantime, take care of yourself and roll qual roll.